Hey everybody, how you doing? I am attorney Michael Eline, and as you guys know, I am licensed to practice law in Texas and California. Good seeing you, Kinetic Customs. Cops are 5150. Kurt Bronson, Rami, and Kinetic Customs. Yeah, good seeing you guys. So hopefully we'll have a good show tonight. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to do a little bit about Jordan Maxwell. He's a really interesting fellow to me. He passed away a while ago, but he was a researcher into the origins of law, the occult, and spirituality, and a lot of the things that he said resonate with me as someone who is a natural law lawyer and a natural law advocate. And so I was watching a bunch of his videos, and I found fault in some of them. Like some of them don't totally come across as totally accurate as far as his findings on courts and judges and things like that. But some of the things do make sense, especially when it comes to law of water and the history of our laws and commerce. And so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to play a little Jordan Maxwell, and then I'm going to share my research, because I've researched some of the things that he said in his videos to see if there's any truth to any of this stuff. And I found that, some of it I've been able to find truth to, and other things it's sort of teetering, and maybe, but it'll be really interesting. I think you guys are going to enjoy the show tonight. Hey, Rami, good seeing you. And I know that a lot of people who watch my show are into the sovereign citizen thing, and that's cool. I don't have any issue with that. I don't think that you're an existential threat or anything like that to the country. I think that we're all supposed to be sovereign under our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. We're all supposed to be sovereign. We're supposed to have the same rights as a king. That is my understanding of the revolution and the other revolutions against the kings of past. And that's what John Locke brought to us. And that's what Thomas Jefferson and a lot of our founding fathers believed in. And so ultimately the banksters got control of our country in 1913, and it's kind of gone downhill ever since then. A debt-laden society. We'll get into that, the history of indebtedness and how it happens. But among all countries on earth, the Americas, the American lowercase u, United States of America, was the very first country to recognize that the people themselves were the sovereigns. We had the same divine appointment as kings. We considered ourselves to have the same rights as a king, and that the governments were instituted among men to secure our rights, not to take them away. So when I see these silly politicians on TV saying that people need to be censored or put in jail for misinformation, when they're the primary purveyors of misinformation, it really bothers me. So we'll do a really cool show today, and hopefully you guys will like it. I have pretty good legal research skills, so hopefully you guys will get a kick out of what I'm going to talk about today. Got the 5 o'clock shadow going again today, guys. Haven't had a chance to really relax, but we're going to go ahead and have some fun. And then after we cover that, we're going to cover a little bit of Thomas Aquinas, because that's one of the people that I sort of look up to as a historian. And then we'll get into some cop watch videos too, because a lot of people are complaining I'm not doing enough cop watch videos, and you guys want to watch that. So we'll do that. And I'll break down some illegal stops, and we'll talk about why is it that law enforcement feels that they have so much power over someone who's supposed to be sovereign, who's supposed to have the same rights as a king. And why is it that the government feels that they can have the power to take away our firearms or our right of speech in the interests of, protecting other people? And we'll get into the political class and how they're trying to silence people so they can have a single narrative. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to kick off my show like we normally do. Hey, Mama Lion. I'm just trying to give you guys some time to join the show. Mama Lion's here. Christopher's nice. Good. I'm glad you like the sound. Got the sound squared away. And yes, you're right, Sacramento Linnea. We can't say the PHARMEC word, though, without getting in trouble, because you know that the WHO controls the narrative now on Google and its platforms. So, and by the way, the guy who runs that WHO organization is a member of an organization that has been recognized by the United States is a terrorist organization. So go figure. Crazy stuff, crazy stuff. So really quick, guys, let me just see here. Let me go ahead and kick off my show with my traditional announcement because I just think it's the coolest. To another edition of Ask Michael Eline. This is where I teach people the law in an unorthodox manner by using examples that we see in the news, case law briefs, but it's all about exposing the Leviathan and its instrumentalities and taking back your rights. Know the law and mean to keep it well. Come here to learn from an expert to know your right. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Wow, that's for sure. You never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. You know, they've been really targeting me hard since I did my expose on the Ohio local government and their property interests in the apartments and the factories that are employing these Haitians that are being accused of eating pets and cats and dogs. And we saw how the Marxist press said that it's false and that it's not happening, despite the fact that the Ohio Attorney General said that there's 911 calls saying that it is happening. And the local residents testified before the local city council that it's happening. But you see the spinsters, which are all basically members of the same political class, saying that it's misinformation, disinformation, the same old thing. They say anything that they disagree with or goes against their political narrative is misinformation, disinformation. They have their own fact checkers who will go along for a nice hefty price, who they say are independent, but they're not. They're paid for by the same people trying to get the answer they want. Same way a lawyer would hire an expert witness in a court case. You know, you hire your expert, I hire mine. You know, you're hiring them because they're going to support your position. So that's all it is. That fact checkers are a complete joke and they should never be trusted. And I teach everybody that you should learn critical thinking. And so that's what we do here. Now, if you look at my YouTube channel, you'll see one of my most recent posts on the post section in my community tab that 80% of people in this world are easily misled and are incapable of critical thinking. And so there's only about 20% based on studies who are capable of critical thinking, who won't just go along with the government. And so when you have the government brainwashing school children from kindergarten into college, when they are exposed to a critical thinker like my audience or I, they go bananas and they want to hurt us because the cognitive dissonance prevents them from accepting truth. And so that's just something I wanted to kick off at the very beginning. Hey, Bo Ghibli, good seeing you. Now, yeah, that's right. Nelson Mandela was classified as a terrorist. And that's right. They did have to reclassify him. That's because he was a member of the Communist Party. You have to remember that the ANC communists, the way they dealt with the people they disagreed with was to put a burning tire around them and light them up. So that was kind of scary. So that's probably why they classified him that way. Now, kinetic customs, critical thinking was in our mission statement at college. Man, you must have gone to college in the 1700s because the modern education system does not want critical thinkers. They want lemmings who will go along with whatever the government tells them. At least that's my view. But let's go ahead and we'll start the show. And we're going to start off with a little bit of, you know what? I'm going to tell you really quick, a little bit about Jordan Maxwell. So Jordan Maxwell, again, he's one of the preeminent researchers on the occult and law and spirituality. And he's somebody that has sort of piqued my interest lately as I'm surfing around Google and stuff and YouTube. And I've watched a lot of his videos. Some of the stuff I totally agree with. Some of it I haven't been able to find supporting evidence to support the things that he says. He kind of reminds me of some of the sovereign citizen people that I met back in the 90s who I was friends with, you know, the guys at the R1 Supreme Court, guys like Eric Richard Williams and the Freeman of Montana. I met a lot of these guys, and he sort of does come off like them, but he's much more highly educated into the spiritual aspects of the origins of law and good and evil. And so that's something that really got my attention, is the fact that he recognized that the universe does have a recognition of good and evil. We're born knowing right from wrong in our hearts, just like it says in the Bible. We naturally seem to know what's good and evil. And so that was something that I really liked. And I know that I do have some very highly educated people in my audience, people with like 3 or 4 degrees. And then I have regular blue collar guys, which I sort of identify with more. I'm more of the guy, the street fighter. That's kind of how I grew up: judo and kickboxing, Muay Thai, and then being a Marine, and then becoming a lawyer with no undergrad or law school, and then getting or law degree, and then getting a law degree without an undergrad after I passed the bar. So to me, it's just a state of mind. And there's a really great book that I could recommend for you guys who are struggling out there, and gals, called Rhinoceros Success. When I was in sales, this is a great book that I read. I recommend that you read that book if you want to learn about, even if you think that you have a handicap, you probably really don't, because what the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. So if you're lacking grammar or English or anything like that, your skills are off, I can show you how to improve that through just basic positive thinking, really. But that's another show for another time. I'm going to go ahead and kick off the show, and I'm going to cancel myself off of the screen for now, because I'm trying to pull up this other video so as I play this for you, I'm trying to find some other additional research, because I just now got done working and I didn't have as much time to prepare. But we'll start out with Jordan Maxwell, and you'll kind of see why I like him. I think you guys are going to like him too.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here at the 4th Annual ConspiracyCon 2004 Memorial Day weekend. Appreciate that you're here. Most of you were here this morning when I made a few announcements about how many of our presenters are solution-oriented. And the person you're about to see is just such a person. He is going to be provided with an introduction, honored today by Jordan Maxwell, an associate and friend of ours here at the conference. And again, about solutions. Look at that symbol right there. Might look a little bit familiar. And I don't use that symbol by accident, and neither is our next presenter, who is also an associate and good friend of Jordan Maxwell. Jordan, some of you know, has spoken at this event and others like it. And I thought it would be appropriate for Jordan to provide a little bit of a hidden history lesson as to what has happened to our country, what has happened to this planet, what has happened to our legal system, our financial system. He is very knowledgeable about.
I agree with that.
Secret societies,
yes,
symbolism,
definitely.
orders,
symbolism,
all the things and elements and groups that are behind what has happened. And I couldn't think of anybody better to introduce our next guest. So without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Jordan Maxwell. He will be up here for about 15 minutes. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Good seeing you, Ralph.
First of all, I want to thank you all for being here with us today. A lot of kind words have been said about me, but I want to clarify a few things. I'm not the world's foremost authority on anything. I never have been, I'm not now, nor will I ever be. I'm too smart for that.
That's me.
Because I know how much I don't know.
That's right.
And
the attitude
I'm
you have
learning
to have.
every day that I live, the world keeps opening up larger and larger. And I started.
In other words, don't be a MERB. Don't be a U-Haul storage facility manager who thinks you know everything. Try to be humble and learn from others.
This escapade back in 1959. I started talking to audiences in 1962 about secret societies, the New World Order, occultism, and it was in 1966 that Anthony J. Hilder produced his first record set with Myron Fagan on Illuminati.
Hey, Jeff, good seeing you, buddy.
And it was Anthony J. Hilder and Myron Fagan who introduced into American society the idea of secret societies and Illuminati. So when you hear the concept being discussed by anyone of secret societies, and especially that word Illuminati. Remember, it was Anthony J. Hilda who introduced it, and the man who talked about it, Anthony actually produced the records, and it was Myron Fagan, a very important man that you need to know about, who's no longer with us. Myron Fagan was the man who introduced the idea of Illuminati.
Yeah, I've been researching this.
As I said, I was talking about these subjects back in 1962, before most of the people who now talk about it were even still in school. So consequently, I've looked at many different
Hey,
areas
Stacy.
of conspiracy since that time. And I'm appalled at what I see happening in this
Stacy.
country today. We are told that America is the land of laws, a nation built on laws. In point of fact, nothing could be further from the truth.
I'd agree with that.
America is run by people who are lawless.
Oh, that's for sure.
We have no law
We've seen
in
that.
America. And understand that. The law is whatever the powers that be in power happen to say it is today. Whatever they say it is, that's what the law is today.
And we saw that happen recently with Chile de Castro, didn't we? Right? He got falsely arrested. He got his life, liberty, and property stripped from him. And ultimately, he got lucky that the law decided that he was in the right at the end of the day, because I believe, because of our spiritual energy in supporting him and the popularity and the outreach from people like us, I think ultimately the courts had no choice but to grant him his appeal.
And it may change tomorrow. So what you need to understand is this is not a nation of laws, it's a nation of lawlessness. And somewhere along the line, we're going to be dealt with by that universal God force because of what we have allowed to happen in our country.
Well, we're trying to stop it, guys.
Now, in
That's why you're
relation
on my
to the
channel.
subject today, which is the occult world of commerce, let me give you a couple of examples of I think where you need to start thinking. If you are going to send a box through the mail and you need to wrap it with some rope, you go out in the garage and you find some rope and tie up the box, and that should be sufficient to do the mailing. But if you're going to take that rope out to the edge of a 10-story building and hang on it, you better trust and you better examine the integrity of that rope now, because your life hangs in the balance on it. Another example is if you owned a 2-story building and you were going to put a lot of weight on the second floor.
Absolutely, Stacy.
If you were smart, you would go downstairs first with the structural engineer, get on a ladder and go up through the ceiling tiles and examine the floor that you're going to put that weight on to see if the floor is going to hold that kind of weight.
Right.
So what you're doing is you are standing under the foundation you're going to build on. You're standing under to get understanding.
Understanding. Pay attention,
because that's
guys.
where the word understand comes from.
I agree.
To stand under the foundation that you're building on. Understanding words
Yes, semantics
is what you
also.
really need to start doing. You need to start doing your homework and understanding words. If you put an S in front of words, it becomes swords. And that's what words are. They're cutting. They can cause you great trouble.
Yes, they can.
Humans are word-controlled creatures. So we need to establish what words mean. Again, when we talk about law, there's a Roman maximum in law that says, "For he that would be deceived, let him." Simply meaning, if you are so ignorant as to be deceived, then that's your business. That's your problem.
Yeah, it's also in the Bible. It says, "Let the ignorant remain ignorant." So that's why I think, when I was getting upset about all these trolls causing trouble for me on my channel, Chile was like, just ignore them. You're not going to convince them. They're ignorant. They're basically demons. So why would you try to convince a demon? And I think that that was good advice. Let's keep listening to what Jordan has to say.
So you need to do your homework and find out what the words mean, especially in relation to
A little
law
bit,
and
Jeff.
government.
Thanks.
Because there is a world of occultism that is operating today throughout the world,
No
in
doubt.
which you use certain words,
Puff
and when
Daddy.
those words are used in a court, they don't mean the same thing at all.
That's true.
Understanding law and the words of law, there are two things that this planet has:
Right on,
water
Chili.
and
Thanks for
earth.
joining me, bro.
Water and land.
It's going to be a good show, man.
Consequently, there are two kinds of law: the law of the land and the law of water.
Yes.
You've heard the term law of the land, but in point of fact, that's precisely what this word means, law of the land, because it is the people who live on land. And that is opposed to something else called the law of the high seas, or the law of water. You need to understand the difference. The law of the land is the law of the culture that lives on the land. And so consequently, the law of the land is different in every country. You can
Pay
do
attention.
things in America you can't do in Russia.
Pay attention.
You can do things in Africa you can't do in England. So
You can eat people in Haiti. You can eat dogs and cats in Haiti, and then your government, who gets paid off to house them in apartments because they're privately owned apartments and factories being subsidized by the government, you can just lie about it, and ABC News will cover it up for you.
the law of the land is the law of the culture that lives on that particular land. However, there is a higher law that dominates the entire world. It's called the law of the water.
That's right.
Or the law of the high seas. The law of water is referred to as the law of money. It doesn't matter what color you are, where you.
By the way, guys, give me a bunch of ones for Chili DeCastro for joining us today. It's a real honor to have Chili from Delete Laws join this channel. He is one of the bravest, most incredible people I've met in my life, a very dynamic person. And I really think that it was a real blessing for me to run into him under these circumstances. And I really want you guys to support his channel. And he's going to be doing some really big things coming up here in the next few weeks. So I want you guys to support him so we can keep him running. But let's listen to Jordan.
From or where you live. Money is money. And anytime you're doing banking or using money, you are now under the law of water, maritime admiralty. If you go back in history, in ancient history, where all of this began, back in the land of Canaan, and you probably have heard in the Bible, the land of Canaan. The Canaanites were Phoenician bloodline, and in the ancient Phoenician language, Cana meant merchant, banker. The very word merchant comes from mer, M-E-R, for the sea, for water. As a mermaid, we have merchant. Merchant, bankers. Let me give an example of the difference between the law of water and the law of the land.
Keep listening.
The law of water, as I said, is a law of banking, money, as opposed to the law of the custom of the people or the law of the land. The Statue of Liberty must be put in water. It could not be put on American land as such. It had to be put in the harbor because it's not the statue of freedom. It's a statue of liberty. Liberty is what a sailor gets when he pulls into port on a ship. He gets liberty. He's not free.
That's right.
So America is not the land of the free and the home of the brave. We're not free or brave, period. We're not free. This is not a free country. Now, let me give you an example of how this law of the water works. Why is it that you have to go to court? People are always concerned about going to court. You go to court because you play basketball and tennis on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Why? Because that's what it is. It's a racket. And make no mistake, they do not pick words by chance.
That's for sure.
These words are very serious.
Very
They
serious.
do not use words in terms with no avail. These words are very important. When you go into a court, what's the idea of going to court? It's a game like basketball. The whole idea in a court is to put the ball back in the other guy's court. One team gets up and they throw the ball over to that team of lawyers. That team gets up and throws the ball back into their court. And consequently, it's a ball game. And the judge is wearing a black robe, so he is the referee. The judge is the referee. He doesn't care which side wins or loses because he's going to get paid anyway. So he couldn't care less. He's merely there as a referee, and that's why he wears a black robe. And that's another interesting subject we can get.
And guys, because I'm in vertical mode, the way you like is to double tap. One of the problems with vertical is nobody ever gives me any likes. So please remember that, guys. Double tap that screen. It really helps me with the algo, and save to your favorites too. It really helps me a lot. Because, you know, look, I'm doing this for free. I'm doing this on my lawyer time. Each one of these shows is probably costing me about $1,200 to $1,500, but it's not really costing me. To me, it's an honor to serve you, but just try to support me as best you can. Okay. Even a $10 super chat or whatever really helps, because that way I can say, Hey mama, to my wife, like, look, you know, I got something for the family.
Get into later, but the judge is a referee between two teams. The judge, we are told, rules from the bench. The word bench in Latin is a bank. Therefore, the judge rules for the bank. Where do you find banks? You find banks on both sides of a river. They're called river banks. And what does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the current sea. The juice. Consequently, your money is currency because it's the flow, the cash flow. And I'll give you an example of how this works. When a ship pulls into a harbor, all ships are referred to as female. Airships, rocket ships, sailing ships are always female. Why? There's a very good reason. Maritime Admiralty banking law says all ships are female.
That's right.
Because they're carrying items. They're carrying items for money. And so consequently, they are under Maritime Admiralty law. Admiralty is where we get the word admiral, admiral of the Navy. Let me give you an example of how this works. When a ship pulls into harbor, it parks at the dock, and it ties off at the dock. The captain has to provide for the port authorities a certificate of manifest, because yesterday the ship was not here, but this morning the ship pulled in, so it has manifested. So consequently, all the products, the $800 million worth of TVs or Toyotas, have manifested. So each one of those items coming off of that ship has come off of water. And each end, they has come in a ship. And consequently, on a ship, all ships have a captain. The word captain comes from a Latin word capital, money. So the captain represents the money that's on board the ship. And as I said, the captain has to present to the port authorities a certificate of manifest for each and every item. How much does it weigh? What color is it? How many doors does it have? Etc. Right. And consequently, the captain presents a certificate of manifest. The ship is sitting in its berth. Wherever a ship sits when it docks is called its berth. She sits in her berth.
Her berth.
Berthing a ship.
Mm-hmm.
Consequently, all the items, as I said, coming off that ship represent money. They came in on water. They are Maritime Admiralty product. And this is true all over the world.
That's true.
Now, when you were born, your mother's water broke. And when your mother's water broke, you came out. And this is why you have to have a birth certificate, because you are a Maritime Admiralty product under international law. You are considered, your body is considered a Maritime Admiralty product. Your mother delivered you. This is why if you go to Sears and buy a refrigerator, they will ship it to you. They will deliver it. That's why you were in your delivery room. Your mother was delivering a product. Maritime Admiralty, you came down your mother's birth canal. And once you,
That's good.
as you're taking one of the televisions or the cars off the ship and it falls down and breaks, that's all right. Sometimes they're stillborn, so consequently you've lost money on that one. Therefore, you have to have a death certificate, and it's always signed by the doc. The doc has to sign your birth certificate and your death certificate. All of these words and terms are maritime admiralty banking words.
That is true.
And therefore, if you understand lawyers and judges and courts and government are all under international maritime admiralty law. All religions, all churches in the world operate under maritime law. This is why all churches are divided into
That's true, Brace
denominations,
for pleasure.
like 20s and 50s and 100s. Serious. This is why they're called denominations, because all churches are nothing more than the product of maritime admiralty banking. It's an extraordinary story of occult treason, high treason, and crimes against the state. Make no mistake about it. There has never been a country on the face of the earth as far back into history as you can go. There has never existed a country in which the people rose up and demanded their right to be free. Never. The concept of human, spiritual, intellectual, and physical freedom is a totally concept that has never, ever existed on the earth. The only time that has ever come into existence was the founding of this country, where it was understood that we were sovereigns and we owned our bodies.
That's right.
And consequently, since 1868,
Fact.
we're now under international maritime admiralty law. Think about this. When cowboys in Indian movies, when the cowboys would ride into town, they get off the horse, they were wearing guns. How come they could walk into a bar carrying guns? And if two guys got in an argument, they could go out on the street and draw on each other in front of the sheriff's office, and the sheriff would do nothing. How come? How come that men could go out in the street and shoot each other in front of everyone and have nothing be done about it? The reason why is because before 1868, all Americans were considered sovereigns. And that's one of the nice things about being a sovereign, is you have the right to be yourself. And consequently, you need to understand that, in one last point I'm going to make before I introduce your speaker, that in 1868, there was a corporation founded. Anyone can incorporate a company. Well, in 1868, there was a company incorporated. And in that particular company, the founders of that company they referred to it as the United States Corporation. And they stipulated that anybody who would be a member of that corporation or work for that corporation would be called not an employee, but a citizen. So today, if you are asked, are you a citizen of the United States? What you think you're being asked is, are you lawfully in this country to do business? That's not lawfully what's being asked. They didn't ask you if you were in America lawfully. They ask you a specific question. Are you, of your own volition, out of your own mouth, testifying that you are a citizen of the United States? Because in that way, citizen of the United States means you are an employee of a foreign corporation operating on the international maritime law. So today, the president of the United States is the president of a privately owned company. The company is called United States. And the word president is always a word that is used in corporate law. Banks have presidents. All companies have presidents. So there's a corporation called United States, privately owned, and it has a president. President Bush is not the president of America. President Bush is the president of a privately owned company. Privately owned, out of England. And you need to understand words and terms. because I believe that there is a divine presence in the universe that men call God, and one day that divine presence is going to move on the earth, and we're going to see freedom come back to this world. And when it does, you're going to need to understand words and terms and how they have been used to trick you. And that's the speech that today I'm introducing Jason Whitney to give you some ideas about how these words have been used to enslave.
Really quick, I'm just going to intervene. So I've done some research on the incorporation of the District of Columbia, and there are two distinct United States. There is the United States in that 10-mile square, and there's also the United States that's supposed to protect commerce and things like that mentioned prior to the formation of the DC corporation. And so what my conclusion is it's not clear. And Ralph Riley may have some points. I still need to dig into it. But right now, some of the things that he's saying, I'm on the fence about. Some of the things I'm not going to tell you what I am or am not on the fence about. Obviously, I'm sharing this with you. So that tells you that he's definitely somebody that I want to listen to. Let's keep going.
You. And with that, I'd like to introduce my friend, Jason Whitney.
Jason's pretty good too. We're going to watch Jason as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to just restart the computer here. There's a lot to cover, and going to go pretty quick. And some of the stuff that we're going to go over is, in essence, a reiteration of some of the concepts that Jordan presented to you. So, but we're going to give them with visual examples, so they hopefully give you a better mental anchor. So when you see this stuff come up, if you should ever, get involved in a situation where you unfortunately have to go to court, you understand the name of the tune. And you'll find out at the end of all of this today, it's just business. I was first introduced to Jordan Maxwell approximately 3.5 years ago. I was up late at night, and it was about 3 o'clock in the morning when my girlfriend
there you go, Anonymous.
said, "Hey, you got to listen to this guy." And I was doing homework. I was originally a computer science major, studying network engineering. And I set my books aside, and I walked over to the table, and I flipped on the channel so I could hear the radio in the room I was in. And I hear this guy talking. And the information was so powerful that was being presented, I was absolutely blown away. I went and grabbed a notebook, and I started taking notes because, I've been into the occult since I was about 18, and I've studied mostly stuff on, basic secret societies and pyramidology and the concepts of some UFO ET stuff. But what Jordan presented on that radio show put the entire world system, whether it be religion, banking, or politics, or UFOs and aliens, and the concept of, the alien ant farm, which is Earth, all into a construct that I could basically see with open eyes, kind of like the Matrix revelation. And, if it wasn't for Jordan, in any capacity, I wouldn't be here today. And certainly, myself and a collective group of people that have become researchers, and I like to consider myself, in essence, still a neophyte, because I'm not an expert on anything like Jordan. However, so many researchers that we have come into contact with have been facilitated into this particular paradigm as a result of Jordan's research. And like I said, in my particular opinion, Jordan is truly the godfather of occultism.
Very impressed. Very impressed by Jordan.
So just wait for this machine to boot up here so I can get to the good stuff. My presentation in part's predicated upon the images, but anyways, the world of admiralty that we're going to talk about today it's a concept and it's a philosophy. What the system, Jordan explained that there's two kinds of law in the world. There's civil law and there's the law of water and money. Well, we have our common law system where collective groups of people come together and they agree to follow particular behavioral patterns.
Thank you,
However,
Flying Board. Good seeing you,
the
buddy.
banking system, or the
Rami.
banksters or gangsters or whatever you want to call them, have collectively, through thousands of years, have set up a situation where they can manipulate people to superimpose a legal system that is not based entirely on law, it's based on commerce.
Good seeing you, brother.
And so this artificial let's pretend construct has basically been superimposed over our law of our land. And as we'll get into it, I'll explain that, or I'll try to demonstrate further that we are not operating in a common law system anymore, although the common law is still here, and we need to understand how to access it and how to use it to our advantage. But most people, unfortunately, are so ignorant of what the law is, or what the codes are, or what the statutes actually say, and how they particularly apply to them. They just are used to functioning in a consensus reality that, oh, well, you know, at 18 or 16, everyone gets a driver's license, and, you know, when I work, everyone fills out a 1040 IRS tax form, or because he said, or because your parents said, or because your parents were particularly indoctrinated in a system where everyone is functioning perpetually in this let's pretend game.
Cognitive dissonance.
We're going to go over a couple things here really fast. This presentation, like I said earlier, it's dedicated entirely to Jordan Maxwell because this is his work, just reiterated in a new light with my own particular spice overlaid. So thanks again, Jordan. So interestingly enough, this ship, or the ships of the high seas in commerce, if you get back to, you know, ancient Europe, the merchant vessels that transported goods and services and commodities and product to make money were called revenue cutters. Okay, it's just a term, not too significant, but the whole system is set up about one thing: money, because the banks and the banks through their politicians and legislational system, they set up a body of laws to further extract money, or set up a system that money is always flowing up. It's being extracted out of your bodies, out of your sweat equity, out of your labor. So the whole thing is based about one thing: commerce. Okay, Jordan said the ship, you know, when a ship is pulled into a dock, it's docked. And we go back to what happens when a ship pulls into a dock. It has to present a manifest, you know, a certificate of manifest. It's really simple. It's all about forms. Everyone ever see that movie Brazil? Yeah. Okay, that's pretty much the system we're operating in today. If you can take a closer look at it. So you have a certificate of manifest, and it just describes all the property that's on the ship. Ship sits in its berth, as Jordan mentioned earlier. There you go. The mother, and the system that we operate, if you understand Admiralty, it's a very esoteric system, because the banking has been operating longer than 6,000 years, probably longer than recorded history, longer than the Code of Hammurabi, etc. But the mother is a vessel, or all of us are vessels, because, and this is a philosophic esoteric point, but right, our bodies are a warehouse, and you live within the confines of your skin if you take the concept that you're a spiritual being. Okay, so it's an energy vessel. So the mother is a vessel delivering a product, swimming down the rivers of the birth canal, and you know, it's delivered to the dock, or the dock door. And what is it? It's delivery of a human resource, because that's all we're considered, humans. We're human resources, and you know, you get a birth certificate to vouch for that. It used to be that, you know, if a child was born in a common law society, you know, collective society, you know, they recorded in the Bible or some sort of, you know, official records, etc. But everything's about certifications, or a B/6, like in Brazil, you know. So certificate of live birth, and we're talking about money. You're a human resource.
Yeah.
So what is money? It's energy. That's all it is. The system is set up that it's the control and flow of energy from generally the bottom up, the basis of the foundation of the people, up into the hands of the bankers that further perpetuate and dictate more laws to further extract money. And we'll demonstrate this in just a moment. So a battery is pretty much what we're considered. If anyone has seen the Matrix, you know, our bodies are our vessel. It's where we store the energy. We eat food. Its energy is transmuted from the sun, goes up the food chain to study biology, and the energy is stored in our fat cells. Well, take a look at this. A nursery, in essence, if we're talking to the world of admiralty and the ship pulling into the dock and getting the port, coming into port, and we're getting all this paperwork, and it's all about money. The nursery is an energy farm or a monetary farm. It's a production house, kind of like the Matrix, you know. So we're going to go into some definitions from the Law Dictionary, what these terms mean. Jordan says we need to take a look at words because we're word-controlled people, right? And I'm not making any of this up. If you look in Ballantyne's Law Dictionary, a human being is a monster. So that's what, you know, when you walk into court, this is how they're looking at you. So you want to get your constitutional rights. You know, you want your liberties, not your freedom, but you want civil liberties. Well, they're working with this guy. How does that apply to you?
It's called a cover there, you.
So let's take a look at what monster says.
Right on, Roger.
A monster is a human being by birth, but in some part resembling a lower animal.
Everybody, give me a bunch of ones for Roger. He just bought a bunch of memberships for you guys. I'm super happy. He's gifting memberships out. Look, I'm really grateful to all you guys because I know that some of you guys don't really make any money. Not that it's money to begin with. You know, it's Federal Reserve notes. But the fact that you guys are showing me love really means a lot to me. Because I got to tell you guys, all I do is work. And I just have the life that I probably wouldn't want to have if I could choose it over. But unfortunately, you know, the chips have to fall where they fall. And so I'm making the best of it. Let's keep going.
Animal. A monster hath no inherent blood and cannot be the heir to any land, albeit it be brought forth in marriage. Okay, so what are we talking about here? Are we talking about a human being, which is in the law of admiralty or the law of banking, we're talking about a let's pretend game. Limited liability, no one taking responsibility for their actions. That's why we live in a corporate fascist system where everyone wants to incorporate and not take responsibility for what's going on. And this guy over here, the real you that's aware and functions in like a state of common law where it takes personal responsibility for everything he does and, you know, will make his wrongs right and everything. This guy, it's on a piece of paper only. That's the certificate of live birth. That's the B/6. That's the let's pretend game. So if the construct that is law has two kinds of people, you know, and in fact, the spiritual being you won't find a spiritual being in a law dictionary, but you'll find the definition of a person. But peculiar enough, the definition of a person, they try to get you caught up with a natural person. But how do you define a word with its own word? That's a peculiarity in itself. So person includes a natural person, a firm, a co-partnership, or an association, or a limited liability company or corporation. The entire essence of the let's pretend game is to get you to be one of these things, a corporation, functioning in a state of fascism, in a limited liability world, a let's pretend game, where no one takes responsibility for their actions. So we get into the construct of what the physical world versus the legal world is. You have the world of land, which they try to superimpose this matrix body over, of the world of admiralty. In the Constitution, which is predicated upon common law, we deal in the world of gold and silver. What happened to that, guys? You know, now we're dealing with Federal Reserve notes, which a note, by definition, is evidence of a debt.
That's all it is.
And anyone heard of national debt? Or how about income tax? You know, all income tax does is go to pay national debt. It doesn't pay your streets. It
doesn't pay anything.
It goes to pay the national debt with the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve came into act in 1913. And that's a whole story in itself. And the taxes that are generated as a result of using Federal Reserve notes, who collects that? The IRS. When were they started? The same year as the Federal Reserve, 1913.
I didn't know that.
But guess where the IRS is based out of, guys? Puerto Rico.
The link to this video is in the description as well if you guys want to pull it up.
Oh, it's not even an agency of the United States government. You know, that's a whole story in itself. So we have consciousness over here in the physical realm, but the legal realm, it's completely devoid of consciousness. We have present or represented. You ever hear the term in court? You're represented, or you need an attorney to represent you? Because we're playing in the let's pretend game over here. And when you're dealing in the world of the physical, you have lawful. In the legal realm, in the world of statutes and codes, we have legal.
I don't know.
And again, real versus fiction, substance versus reflection. We have the real thing, the real essence of substance, or we have the thing named. And we also have the creditor, or we have a debtor, a lender or a borrower, object versus symbol, a physical body, or a paper certificate, such as a birth certificate.
Tops and bottoms.
So, in essence, who you really are considered to be legally is a fiction, a concept or idea expressed as a name, a symbol that legally has no consciousness. It is a juristic person. It's
Welcome,
in legis.
Stacy.
It's a word written on a piece of paper. It's not you. You see, when we're dealing in real law, when there was a controversy between people in society, in like a tribe or a community, if there was a problem, it was, you know, someone would come up to the elders in society and they would bring you before a committee and they would hash it out, but before a committee of like the Sanhedrin. If you take it back several thousand years in the Judaic cultures, they would take you before the Sanhedrin.
That's right.
And you'd have to give your testimony before the Sanhedrin. Each party testifies, right? So if you look at the word testify, it comes from the word testicle, because you have to hold the males, which were the ones that functioned in commerce. The women were excluded from that. They hold on to their testicles, and if someone's caught lying, what they were holding was what they would lose. That was one of the penalties. I'm not kidding.
It's wild.
So otherwise, it's social and political ostracism, or they can't function in commerce. They become basically a persona non grata. They don't exist. They don't function in that society. They need to move to a new location. So if we're dealing in the world of reality, in the world of spirituality, minus the particular religious construct, the concept is you're having a union between a man and a woman, typically, and you're having a union before your creator, before your, based on your belief system. And that's all the unification you need, whether it be before a priest or a rabbi or what have you. It is your particular contract, your covenant with the person that you love. But now we take a step forward into the world of the statute system or the codified system. We have the let's pretend game, where you need to get a marriage license. You have to ask for permission to do something you would normally do based on your own accord.
That's where the link
and before your creator force.
It's right next to the Maritime
or
hashtag.
philosophical belief system, whatever that allowed for. But now we need to ask for permission from the man
in the description
if you can have this relationship. Why? Because the whole system.
So if you're able to access this video from your phone or your computer and you want to look at this particular link in the description, I just copied and pasted from my description into this, and the link is directly after the Maritime Law hashtag. All right.
System at large is predicated on commerce. It's now been boiled down to a business relationship. And if you don't think so, I've heard Jordan say this a million times, the first person that you're not going to see is the Lord. You're going to see the attorney. Okay? And you're going to talk about who's getting what, and it becomes a matter of contract. So you have to get an application license to marry. So this is what we're operating in over here. We have a three-party marriage. Instead of just you and your wife, I guess it could be a four-party marriage if you're still incorporating the spiritual dynamic of your creator force.
That's right.
But now you have your wife and your husband and the state. And if it's an application for a benefit or permission,
I like this
that
guy.
permission can be revoked or denied. And then you get into this the construct of jurisdiction. The state, if they gave you anything, they can come in and take it away or tell you what to do and how to do it. And then you basically have to live and operate under the codes that are prescribed that dominate the application for the birth certificate, etc. So such things as application for the permission to travel
absolutely.
freely.
Yes, Stacy.
You got to get a driver's license. License, in essence, if you follow it, it's
Sure does, doesn't it,
predicated on
complying
a
cyborg?
system of business. Okay, I just thought that would be funny. Yeah, and the name is all caps, and we'll get into that stuff a little bit later. License is certificate or the document itself which gives permission, authority, or liberty given to or forbear for any act. So what we're talking about here is, anyone heard of just getting up on their own free will and accord and going somewhere because they just cared to do it? Or maybe it's a necessity, you need to go somewhere to get food and survive. You have an inherent system of rights that are bestowed upon you by the Creator, that predicated on natural law principles.
That's right.
What goes up must come down,
right.
etc. But again, the world of admiralty, or the guys that are considered or interested particularly in one thing, how to extract the wealth and power from the energy sources, which are the batteries that are you. Because all money in society nowadays is generated as a result of your potential and what you put into the system. Because Federal Reserve notes, they have no value whatsoever.
Zero.
They're backed entirely on the full faith and credit of the U.S. population. You know, so without you backing these,
And it's being replaced, by the way, our fiat currency system is being replaced by the communist Chinese BRICS currency. And communist China has been buying up all the gold reserves in the world in order to do that. They're literally copying what our founding fathers had envisioned for us, minus the freedom, minus the liberty. Only the high party officials in communism get the luxuries of liberty. Everyone else is considered to be a socialist equal. They call it equity in the modern academic institutions, but equity, all it really means is everyone's a slave. That's all it means. Is the billionaires are working the system, guys, and they're convincing all these young dumb kids that, you know, they're a different sex, they're a different gender, and, you know, they're sexualizing kindergartners, brainwashing them to hate each other, and they're eating our lunch. These billionaires are eating our lunch at the WEF, and they're working with communist China basically to replace the United States. And look, man, gold-backed currency is what our founding fathers wanted for this country, and that was taken away from us by some very wealthy bankers. I think it was in 1913 at Jekyll Island. Do the research, guys. Don't be dumb. Don't listen to the communist news media. Do your own research.
things up, they have no value at all. So in order for you to use this money in society, you have to get up and work every day and put something into the system. And what you reap, you'll sow. So the system cannot perpetuate itself without you. So what is the vehicle that is the courthouse? Well, the courthouse is a very fascinating thing. It's a primary facility that I like to call them chop shops, meat grinders, or wood chippers.
It's a good one.
But these entities or institutions or systems are the primary method or modality, or one of the primary methods or modalities by which your sweat equity is extracted out of you on a consistent basis. We take it from the ground up as something petty as parking tickets. Although parking tickets aren't particularly handled in court, they can be, and we'll talk about how you do that later. But you know, parking tickets or traffic tickets, and traffic tickets and parking tickets are the #1 generators of indirect taxation or revenue in the state of California, period. If you look at the numbers, you will be appalled. So check this out. You have a courthouse, Masonic Lodge. Looks kind of similar, right? Courthouse, Masonic Lodge. You have a courthouse, and you have a Masonic Lodge. I'm just leading you somewhere. Okay, you have a judge, you know, the Honorable Smiley, and you have his gavel, right? What is this? A Masonic gavel. So what I'm trying to say, and I'm not going to get into a big Masonic presentation here, I'm just setting you up or to inspire you all to do a little investigation as to what the system that we're operating under today
screen for a light
is founded upon. Who were the founders? Who were the founding fathers really? Were they a great bunch of guys, as we were told in our history classes? Or was there a greater plan? Was there a grand dynamic, the great work? What were they aiming to achieve? And if you do a little investigation, you'll find out that it's about one thing: business. So Judge Jordan mentioned earlier, judge rules from the bench, okay? This is the basic derivative. Bench in Latin, banc, and bank. And the judge is a banker. And if you look at the whole legal system, how it works today, it's based on banking entirely. Now, river directs the flow of currency. We're talking, again, the world of admiralty. It's about, money is often referred to as currency. And again, the court system is always after our currency. The courts are set up to regulate the flow of currency, and the entire court system as it operates today is a let's pretend game. And we'll take a look at this. The let's pretend game. Why is it that you have to file, you ever heard the term motion in court? You have to file a motion in court. Why? Because the thing doesn't exist unless you say it does. It's basically your paper soldier in the let's pretend game. You're yelling out, you're calling out to the judge, I'm filing a motion, because you're not dealing in the world of substance where you're communicating with parties openly and stating the facts. Okay, I was injured on or about this day, and this is how I was damaged, and these are my witnesses. Now, based on the evidence I'm presenting, that guy should lose his testicles. What do you think about that? And and the other guy presents his evidence and says, well, that guy should lose his. So, and then the committee of the Sanhedrin, or your judge, or whatever your elected official that's directed to give the rule a law or balance the books, he makes the determination accordingly based on the evidence that's presented. But now we have a system of judges in our corrupt system that typically make up the law as they go along because they have a vested interest in the outcome of every court case. And I'm going to show you guys some things that's going to get the wheels turning for you. So you guys ever heard the term circuit court? Circuit court?
There is. Interesting.
Circuit courts, energy, battery, money, banking, electricity, gross national product. It's all about energy. What happens, though, when you interrupt the flow of energy or the currency flow? You break the circuit, right? Or you get charged. Okay? You get charged.
This is good. Love this.
That guy's wearing a black robe like a judge, by the way. So anyways. Okay, but when you go to court, or when you go to court, you're charged with counts 1, 2, and 3. And the judge is a bank. But if you look at the etymology, the concept or the term counts 1, 2, and 3 are actually accounts. Why? Because the judge sits on the bench and he's a banker. It's all about the extraction of your sweat equity, and we're proceeding forward to why. Okay, what happens when you hire an attorney to represent you? Mr. Shyster here. Again, why do you need to get an attorney? Because the whole thing is a let's pretend game, because the attorney, if you take an analysis of it, we're dealing with attorneys, not counselors in law, not lawyers particularly. We're dealing with an attorney that's there to represent the certificate or piece of paper, the artificial person or the natural person that cannot stand and speak for himself properly, or the presumption is so, unless you rebut it. So he's representing the artificial legal fiction, the reflection, the thing named the debtor or the borrower.
Robbie just pointed something out. What do cops do? They charge people. Interesting, right? I mean, the play on words is so amazing. Semantics is what drives the legal system, believe it or not. Let's keep going.
Because why? We're dealing in banking. You're there. Most of the court cases or lawsuits are of and pertaining to money, are they not? Why else do you go to court?
Double tap the screen.
All crimes are commercial. If you look at the legislation and the codes, everything boils down to a dollar value. And in fact, I have, not with me today, I have a case, the president of Tyco, he was convicted in court, and he was awarded, or the sentence was like a $25 million fine, or the end result was like $25 million fine or something like that. If he didn't pay it, he was going to jail for life. What did he do? He whipped out a check, cut it, paid it to the court, and the game was over. He didn't go spend one day in jail. because it's based on bookkeeping entries,
Just
the
like
entire
that.
thing. So if you got enough money, as most of you have an inherent understanding, if you got enough money, you're not going to jail.
That's
Because
right.
you can get lots of attorneys to represent that piece of paper, to make a deal with the judge, or to properly represent you, such as OJ, and get off. Okay, so when you hire an attorney,
Unless it's me.
Let's take a look here. An attorney occupies
Hire me, it's
a dual
different.
position, which implies a dual obligation, okay? His first duty is to the courts and next to his client. So as an officer of the court, in any circumstance, he yields to whatever the judge's direction is, or his obligation to the Bar Association. Now, the Bar Association in itself is a whole other construct. You know, you
Little
have
bit, Roger.
local bar association, multiple constructs. You have local city, county, state, etc. But if you go to a website, it's called ordotempli.org, you'll find out that all bar associations hail from the Temple Bar, which is directed at the Inns of Court, that has a direct affiliation.
So I've done the research on this, and I can't find anything that would substantiate this, but it sounds good. And he is correct that the original Inns of Court was started by the Knights Templar. When the lawyers were kicked out of London by the king, the Knights Templar housed them, and then they studied there. And the Inns of Court are the original way that lawyers under English common law became lawyers. You would study under a judge or a lawyer, and you would basically, like a mason, you would learn the craft, and then you would stand before the bar. You would be examined orally usually. And if you passed, you would be able to pass the bar and enter the bar and sit alongside the judge and the other lawyers. And that was the way that you would pass the bar. I talked about this in one of my other episodes. Either way, we can always agree to disagree on some things, but I'm really all about doing research and finding out. I don't take anybody's word for anything. I'm a critical thinker. Unlike the modern leftists, I don't just believe what ABC tells me. I do my own research, and I invite all of you to do the same. And don't take anything I say for gospel. I want you guys to all have your own points of view. If you accept my point of view, I'm going to lose respect for you. I want you to learn how to be a free, critical thinker. Let's keep going.
To the Ordo Templar Militaris, which is a Knights Templar organization. And that contract, that covenant to direct all bar associations on the planet is issued through what's called a letters patent. And you guys can look up that term later. But it's a contract that's set up based on the Knights Templar. Who are those guys?
And that is
those
true.
Guys are the guys that founded what's known today as our modern banking system.
That's true as well.
So, in any regard, with respect to the court, if you hire an attorney, you're called a ward of the court. You ever hear that? As an operation of law, if you hire an attorney, you're considered a ward of the court.
Thanks, Stacey.
But if you look up the definition of ward of the court, it's infants or persons of unsound mind. So how many of you guys hired an attorney and said, geez, what an idiot I was, get this guy?
Most lawyers suck.
So if your if your attorney was an officer of the court and his first duty was the judge, and he's giving him the secret handshake or the little sign, a little lapel pin shake, whatever the deal was with the judge, based on his payout or whatever the situation may have been, if you're convicted as a result of his lack of performance or conspiracy, you're going to be you're going to prison or jail, or you'd be placed in a cell. Okay, a cell. A cell. But however, again, remember the concept. The whole court system, our whole monetary system, is based on ancient esoteric principles. Your body's energy. It's a vessel.
I agree.
Your body's
with
a vessel. You have blood vessels, etc.
Yeah.
And you're traveling on the seas of commerce. Not really, because we're on land, but they superimpose the world of admiralty on us. And anyone can verify
I agree with
this
that.
because the Navy has surveyed all the land in the continental United States. And there's brass cap high water mark.
Now, so this part right here, I could not find any evidence of any of this. And in fact, I found evidence to the contrary. The U.S. Navy did not survey all of the land in this country. If you have evidence to show me that they did, I want to see it, because I looked for hours trying to find data. I went to a regular library as well, because it's been a while, guys. I didn't just like decide to show you this today, and I couldn't find any of this information. So I invite anybody. I'm still looking for volunteers to help me too, guys, to help me with the show and help me with some other projects that I'm working on with public records requests. But let's keep listening to what he has to say, because some of the things that he says really make sense. Even if I can't find data for it, it just makes sense.
Parks in all the local towns and counties. So they've, in a let's pretend game, they said we're underwater right now. That's why they have jurisdiction of admiralty. And it's, unless you rebut that presumption of jurisdiction or the admiralty realm, it shall reign supreme. But if you might have the opportunity to pay bail. You ever heard paying bail? Okay, you might have the opportunity to pay bail if you've been placed in jail.
Wow.
Okay, bail.
That's wild.
Okay, bail or bail. To bail someone out is to provide cash and get them out of prison, or more generally to help them out of a difficult situation. Well, I think going to court, period, it can be a difficult situation, especially nowadays, especially a financial one, and we'll just go on from here. But after you pay bail, the court has concluded its sale on the high seas of commerce. You see where the etymology
Take a look,
is going?
Walker. Check out
It's
Walker's
just, we're
comment.
dealing in admiralty, ancient Phoenician commercial law, as Jordan said. But everything you said and done, when everything's said and done in court, and you've discharged all your debts, you've paid your debt to society. How many of you heard that? Because everything is commerce, period. One of the first definitions of commerce is the exchange of ideas, concepts, philosophies, interaction, goods and services, etc. And then one of the other definitions of commerce is sexual relations. And I'm not kidding. So the byproduct of that is a commercial product where, again, you get the paper certificate and you play the let's pretend game. So ultimately, which is it? Are we talking business here? Or are we talking justice? And as Jordan would say, it's nothing personal, it's just business, like the mob says. So now we're going to get or progress further to a solution-oriented situation over here, because most people, it doesn't take a genius to figure it out that the system is not based on natural principles. It's not based on a win-win situation, that there's harmony in the universe and everyone goes home and they have enough money in their pocket, etc. But where does all the money go? Marvin Breyer, and that's a man that found out. Marvin Breyer is an I don't want to say Bank of America employee, but he worked for one of their subsidiaries, and he's a COBOL programmer. And he's the guy that designed the foundational computer systems, or the code that transfers all money and et cetera, and balances the books at the end of each day. Well, Marvin, unfortunately, had a very rough situation where his daughter, her child was about to be stolen from the Department of Social Services or one of those particular agencies. And Marvin could not stand the pain to see that happen to his daughter, because his daughter in his life is everything.
What's the matter? You crazy?
She's the capstone on his life's pyramid. Anything and everything for his daughter. So what Marvin did is he did a little homework. He tracked the money that was being raised from the court, and where all the funds and all the money that he was paying into the court system for fines or just court docket filings, all going into slush funds, guys, without exception. Marvin, by the way, has been in Insight Magazine about 6 times. He's been in the LA Times. If you just type in Marvin Breyer on the internet, you'll see tons and tons of articles on him. And he's a personal associate of mine, and I've been fortunate enough to get in with him to understand how he does what he does, how to crack the matrix, how to break through and understand how to get to these guys where it hurts, the money. So if you track the funds that are paid to the court, without exception, at least we haven't found one. And certainly we wouldn't be arrogant enough to say that it's not entirely possible that it might go to the proper directory where the funds are supposed to be appropriated. But the funds are going into different accounts as opposed to where they're mandated by legislature. Instead, they go into private accounts associated with the Judges Association. However, it's really interesting about what the
Sure
judges
does, Ronnie.
associations are. And you can look at
Huge.
any court system in America, namely, we like to particularly look at Los Angeles because a lot of us originally from there, done a lot of investigation over there. But the Judges Association, if you talk to them, try to find out who they are, they're allegedly a tax-exempt organization. However, they're not registered at all with the IRS, period. They fall under a 508 category. And I'm not a super huge tax guru, so I'm not going to get into the codifications. However, the IRS...
Well, I did some research on this, and I couldn't find anything that substantiates this. There was a time in our history where judges were exempt, but I have not found that. The Supreme Court ruled they do have to pay. There are tax-exempt judges organizations. These other things I couldn't verify, guys. So I just want you guys to know, like, not everything on here is something that I can endorse because I have to be able to know for myself. It's one thing to believe. It's just like you can believe in God, but a belief is something that's not total. So when people ask me, do I believe in God? I always say, no, I don't believe in God. I know God. And so that's the difference. So true knowledge comes with, some people say gnosis or a hidden knowledge. So I believe this might be true, but I don't know it to be true. So hopefully you guys can understand that. Give me a bunch of ones if you know where I'm coming from. Let's keep going.
IRS turns a complete blind eye to the fact that they haven't properly registered, but they're amassing tons of these funds. Okay? So, but you'll find out why. You go to tax court, or you go to court based on willful failure to file, or you're not paying your fair share, etc. Why you bring in proper legal arguments or issues as a matter of law, and they throw you into the wood chipper. Why? Because they're all working in harmony together, in concert. Okay, so the Judges Association, what do these guys do? They raise bonds. They create debt without taxpayer approval. Okay, and I'll explain to you guys how this information was found out.
This either.
Primarily, paying checks. Marvin never uses cash or credit card to pay for anything at the courthouse. He always uses a check. And once a check is negotiated or processed, on the back of the check, it has all the routing numbers, okay? The routing numbers, and usually a phone number, so you can call and find out who it is. Otherwise, you can use something called the Public Records Act. I don't care what state you're in, everyone has a Public Records Act. And in some cases, if you're dealing on a federal level, you can do it under Freedom of Information. Now, under Public Records Act requests, in California and Hawaii and other states, I mean, I'm sure it's across the board, it's the same. If they fail to answer, it's a $1,000 fine. So it's all about how you put it on a piece of paper.
And that's not necessarily true.
But the law is created for your benefit. In the event, at least we would like to think, it's created for our benefit, that there is a particular check and balance, but they tuck it away or they hide it away in codes. Well, what are codes? By definition, they're something that's used to hide something. The military uses codes all the time to hide their communications, etc. So the money that is paid to the Judges Association is used to pay off anonymous bonds. Okay? The anonymous bonds are issued through Merrill Lynch and other associations, but Merrill Lynch is the primary bad guy. And we have paperwork that demonstrates this. Marvin got a judge thrown in jail and some prosecuting attorneys, and there's more on the way. Because, you know, you ever heard of judicial immunity? Well, guess what? You don't sue the judge, you sue his association. Or you find the evidence of the wrongdoing through Public Records Act requests, so you trace the money on the check, and then you present the data to the grand jury, and they got to investigate it. And then they got a problem. So
I have no faith in any kind of a grand jury to help somebody like us, but what he says is, I like what he's saying, and I wish that I could rely on what he says, but I want you to do your own research, and I'm going to do more. If you guys want to volunteer some time to help me do research, man, I would love it. I really want to get into this stuff because, the lamestream legacy media, enemy of the American people, they're not going to help us do this kind of research.
As a result, Credit Suisse and Bank of America are the primary underwriters on those bonds. And a company by the name of DTC It's called Department of Trust Corporation, controls the bonds. But guess what? DTC is ran by the Federal Reserve board members. Okay? If you take a look at who's on the payroll, it's all a complex matrix and how do they want you to pay? You're not using gold or silver to pay at the courts. I tried to pay them. They don't take the stuff. I tried to use all kinds of stuff at the courts, guys, but they want that Federal Reserve note product, a private product that's, set up under a sham situation, 1913, set up the same time as the IRS, 1913, and there's some other agencies which I won't mention that were set up in 1913 too, which is a little kooky.
Yeah, he doesn't want 80,000 people showing up at his doorstep.
So I like to call these things Anani bonds. The interest on the Anani bonds is paid through the court fees, fines, and restitution, and along with forfeitures. So when you get convicted, in a traffic ticket matter, not only do you pay, let's say it's $100. Usually there's a statutory limit on traffic tickets. But what do they do to create more revenue? They give you what's called a penalty assessment last time I checked that I was in court was 170% penalty assessment. So you pay an additional 170% on the top of the $500 fine for traveling down the highway, or on the high seas, as they would call it, etc. So the credit rating of the anonymous bonds that are issued by Merrill Lynch in association with Bank of America and Depository Trust Corporation, in association with the Federal Reserve, who is in association with the IRS, based out of Puerto Rico, is all based. The credit ratings performance is based on or determined by the courts or the banking business ability to arrest, prosecute, and convict, or with respect to civil matters, litigate. So what we have here is a perpetual meat grinder that's feeding off itself. It's infinite because it's a system that is endlessly perpetuating itself, and the more you use Federal Reserve notes, the more there's national debt, the more money that needs to be paid to the IRS. But let's take a further look at what the bonds are for. The bonds
Worthless
finance payment to contractors for the building of more courthouses. Okay, so what I'm saying is it's perpetual. They do more than courthouses, but that's the principal amount. Well, they're probably all in concert. Not even probably. I mean, the buildings look the same even. So, but they also build things as post offices. Now, interestingly, in the city of Van Nuys, the Van Nuys courthouse, Marvin Breyer found out that the entire courthouse, was bought for $5 by a judge.
I could find no evidence to substantiate this. Okay, I just want you guys to know I could find nothing, and I need help. I want to do a public records request to find out what the title is, when it was purchased, etc. Guys, help me out. Let's see if we can verify any of this stuff.
And Marvin, by the way, has disqualified basically the entire bench. There's no judge that can't hear Marvin's case, because what he does is he uses Public Records Act requests, FOIA, and he also goes down to the local library and pulls the judge's statement of economic interest. Once a judge becomes a judge, they have to give their entire profile, where their money is going, and they might have some stuff offshore and et cetera that you might not be able to find. But for the most part, the way he creams these guys is he finds out, okay, who's this guy ruled on? He'll pull their whole case history, how many cases he's ruled on, and he'll see, well, he ruled on a case dealing with McDonald's, and he owns stock in McDonald's. So he reverses entire court cases or kicks judges off because there's a conflict of interest. So it's all based on money, conflict of interest. And he also finds out through Freedom of Information, or namely Public Records Act. In one instance, he found out the judge had a brain tumor, but he's still making all these decisions off the bench. He walks right into court, especially when he's powered up about their conflicts of interest, or he's tracked the check. What he does is he'll buy like one page of the docket, costs $1. The next day he'll go back and buy another page of the docket. And what'll happen is none of the checks that he's using to reflect pages of the docket being bought are not showing up when he has all the invoices reflecting that he's purchased the stuff. So, and then he tracks the money, finds out that it's going to the Judges Association, etc., and he generates more conflicts of interest. And what Marvin will do,
Now, if that's true, that sounds like a criminal act. I think that would be a violation of the judge's oath. Let's keep going.
is he'll go into someone else's court case. Say your court case was litigated on like 6 months ago, and you already got the book thrown at you. He'll go in and buy a page of your docket and track where the money goes, and finds out that it went to the Judges Association, and he'll file a complaint against the judge, and he can get your whole case reversed based on conflict of interest. The judge is going to jail, and your case is reversed non pro tunc, as if it never happened. So, but the principle that the reason why I'm trying to present this information, because these guys have inherent weaknesses. And our system, and I believe in the concept of law as agreement between the parties based on natural law principles.
Yeah.
You know, whether you look at the Bible or any particular belief system.
Amen.
There's common natural law principles that if most people never violated, we never have a particular problem. So in any regards, you hit them where it hurts, and it's the money. Because anytime these guys are fooling with money, they have a bad habit. And it's usually as a result of their misappropriation of funds. And you guys want proof? Here's a sample of the couple of checks that were cut from the Judges Association. This one is, you know, only $71.60, but we have others that range from several thousands. And but it doesn't take, well, $571. But we have some that are got a couple extra zeros on there. But the whole point is, all it takes is 1 cent to be misappropriated for the guy to go to jail. Yeah. My stepmother used to work for a judge in a courthouse, and they couldn't even make a photocopy of something for anything other than what was required for their particular office. Otherwise, it was considered a misappropriation of funds, and it was a felony. So 1 cent is all you need. So
Gotcha,
this
Ralph.
is an example of Marvin's slush funds. You know, if you guys do a Google search, you'll find endless articles about Marvin and what he's been able to do. This is the end of the basic essence of my presentation, but I'm going to talk to you guys more in detail about how to do Public Records Act requests. But in relation to the PowerPoint, as in the words of Jordan Maxwell, you better go back and do your homework.
Yeah, so to get the rest of this is where you're going to get it. So I did include the link in the description to my video on my channel. So all you have to do is just go and check it out. But I've got some other stuff here I want to share with you really quick. Well, I've got you here because I am a natural law guy. So let's go ahead and actually before I get into natural law, let me just break down some things about the video so you can see that I've done some research, okay? So number one, hopefully you can still hear me. Move my microphone, so sometimes when I do that, it screws things up. So the origins of letters patent and whether or not they direct bar associations. So letters patent have a long history, originating as a formal legal instrument used by monarchs and governments to confer rights, privileges, titles, or monopolies on individuals or organizations. The term letters patent comes from the Latin phrase literae patentes, meaning open letters, as they were intended to be publicly read and recognized. The key aspects of the letters patent historically would be during the medieval period, they were used by kings and queens and sovereigns to grant land in titles of nobility or exclusive rights. Over time, they evolved into a tool for legal authorization, including patents for inventions, corporate charters, and appointments to government offices. The legal framework was that they would be used in a legal context to establish legal precedents over or to confer specific legal rights to individuals or organizations, including legal bodies, like a judges union, right? The public nature of these documents made them authoritative and recognizable. Letters, patents, and bar associations, well, particularly in common law jurisdictions, they can be traced through the development of the legal profession regulation. And they could historically establish legal entities like bar associations or legal bodies, that could be done through a letters patent. Sovereigns or governments would issue them. They could grant authority to regulate. A letters patent could grant authority to regulate, like a municipal corporation, right? Or maintenance of professional ethics, for example, for admission, to empower someone to oversee the legal education of a lawyer. This formal recognition gave bar associations legal standing to enforce rules and manage the legal profession. Hopefully you guys are following me so far. Notable examples would be the Inns of Court in England, which we discussed earlier, which played a key role in training barristers and was historically tied to letters patent by royal decree. In the colonial and post-colonial context, bar associations in places like the United States and Canada, as well as India, also received charters or authority to regulate the legal profession through letters patent or similar legal instruments, right? So there's that one. And now, are letters patent used modernly in bar associations? In modern times, letters patent, from my research, okay, and you guys can prove me wrong if I'm wrong, do not directly govern or establish bar associations in the United States. The historical role of letters patents in conferring legal authority has largely been replaced by statutes, constitutions, or other legal frameworks within the U.S. legal system. Give me a bunch of ones if you followed me so far, you're tracking. Now, the key points about modern U.S. bar associations are they're going to be governed by state and federal law, state Supreme Courts, or modern legal instruments like, a legislative act or a court rule or a bylaw. So a little bit different. Now, the American Bar Association is a voluntary organization. It's not like, I'm not a member of the ABA because I think they're a bunch of commies. So I'd never have anything to do with it. Historically, it was a highly racist organization which was designed to keep blacks out of the legal profession. And most of the members were Klansmen, and they were all Democrats. Every single head of the Bar Association was either a Klansman, but all were Democrats. Now, there was a shift from letters patent to statutory law. And that the historical role of the letters patent faded after our independence in 1776 from the UK. So now the US Constitution and state constitutions are going to govern the legal systems that we have. So now, are judges subject to taxes? I want to get through this as quickly as I can because I want to show you some cool videos. Yes, judges in the United States are subject to taxes as well as federal taxes. The general principle is that everyone pays taxes. There's the Evans case, Evans versus Gore. It's a 1920 case. Was a case where a federal judge challenged the imposition of federal income taxes on his judicial salary, arguing that it violated the Constitution's compensable clause, Article 3, Section 1, which prohibits reducing the pay of federal judges during their term in office. He was saying, well, if you're taxing me, that's reducing my pay. Supreme Court didn't go along with it in the Evans versus Gore case. Now, the court originally ruled in Evans' favor. Okay, that's what a lot of people, people who don't understand how to read case law, they'll see that case and not understand that it was reversed. But yeah, so holding it applied that, income taxes in that case were a violation of the compensable clause because it could be seen as a reduction. I actually agree with that. It is a reduction, but corporate judges, right? So the O'Malley case in 1939, the O'Malley versus Woodrow 1939 case reversed its earlier position that the court ruled that federal judges are not exempt from paying taxes, and it rejected the argument that taxing judicial salaries violated the compensation clause. In O'Malley, the court found that taxes are generally applicable to everyone, including judges. Now, the impact of the O'Malley ruling is that it's well established. Judges got to pay taxes too. All right. So are modern judges associations subject to taxes? Yes, they are, unless they qualify for tax exempt status under 501c3. Now, I did some research on this 508 thing. 508 seems to be the general characterization, like the general head of which all the 501cs fall under. So many judges associations are organized as nonprofit organizations. Examples would include the American Judges Association or the AGA, okay? Now, requirements for the 501c3 status is that they have to file with the IRS and they have to demonstrate that they're organized and operated exclusively for exempt purposes, such as promoting the legal profession, advancing judicial education, or upholding judicial ethics, all right? And if so, they can qualify. Unrelated business income tax. Even tax-exempt organizations, including judges, associations, have to pay income on any derived activity. For example, if they have conference or a sellout or sell merchandise, they may have to pay taxes on that if it's not directly tied to the nonprofit mission. Hopefully you're following me so far. And then it can be exempted through state and local laws, but they don't automatically exempt these associations. And there are for-profit judges associations. So 508 basically of the IRC, of the Internal Revenue Code, or the Form 1024 is where it's coming from. It appears as though sometimes you may not have to file as a tax exempt organization, but it's rare sometimes. But typically, if you have an organization with gross receipts of 5,000 or more annually, with less than 5,000, you would not have to file as a tax exempt organization. So basically that's how that works. And let me see if there's anything else cool that I can share with you. Now, can they be used to pay off anonymous bonds? No, I couldn't find anything that said that. It would be considered tax evasion or money laundering, perhaps. So I don't agree with any. I don't think that's going to fly. Now, could you get an allodial title on a car, for example? So allodial title is the highest form of ownership, and this is something that Ralph Riley, I think, talks about as well. And what I've been able to find is you can't, but I've seen some videos where people have said that they've been able to get a allodial title on a car sale. Typically, you cannot get a allodial title on personal property, only on real estate. So that would be that. And then, was the Van Nuys courthouse purchased for $5? I couldn't find any credible evidence that would suggest the Van Nuys courthouse was purchased for $5. It appears to be an urban myth, but again, these guys might have data. Somebody on this chat might have data. I just need to know. I'm not one of these guys like ABC who just going to call you a liar because I was unable to do my due diligence, because that's what the modern day legacy communist news media does, and their communist fact checkers do. They'll have like, oh, we called the city manager and he said there's no evidence, without telling you that the city manager is the same one renting the apartments to these savages that they've imported into their communities that are in fact eating their animals. Now we have absolute proof of that. We have overwhelming public records and evidence that suggests that based upon the rules of evidence, which I did in my last video with you guys. So that's why I encourage you all to be critical thinkers and don't listen to anything that your public school teacher, your college professors, or any of these academics tell you, because they're being paid by the same people who are trying to destroy this country. So in my opinion, so that's pretty much that. Now, as far as land surveying and high water marks, I couldn't find any. So land surveying in the United States is primarily conducted by the U.S. Geological Survey. It's not under the purview generally of the U.S. Navy. Surveys are done for a variety of purposes. High water marks are specific points, including high level reached by a body of water like a river or a lake. High water marks are more commonly studied by agencies involved in environmentally monitoring, like a floodplain management system, not the military. Brass caps or markers are used in some surveying practices to indicate specific geographic points or boundary markers. However, the use of brass caps is not standard practice for marking high water marks across the country, nor is it a task typically undertaken by the U.S. Navy. So the U.S. Navy is primarily responsible for naval operations and defense and maritime activities. They don't conduct comprehensive land surveying. They just don't. Now, I'm still a little bit sick, you guys. So anyways, that's pretty much that. And then I looked at the IRS code too and couldn't find anything that was really helpful. We're going to watch this 10-minute video really quick because I like it, about natural law, and hopefully you guys will like it too.
Now, at the very outset, there are three fundamental jurists or academics who are of seminal importance to natural law, namely Aristotle, Socrates, and Plato. First and foremost, we need to understand the thinking behind natural law. Now, this could be considered as one of the fundamental or the inception points of proper legal jurisprudence. As such, The thinking behind natural law, be it in terms of Socrates, Plato, or Aristotle, was basically that there is a connection which exists between law and morals, and that law must be both just and fair. Now, what this meant in turn was that natural law theorists or jurists believed that because laws or because jurisprudence was supposed to be encapsulated in morals and because it was supposed to be just and fair, man-made law must conform to a higher principle of right conduct, which is discoverable through reason.
Reason.
Now, later on, when we discuss natural law, you'll understand how this at one point got shifted into a very religious aspect because we consider these higher principles. Evidently, because of this, you could see that the concept varies from person to person, time to time, and more importantly, place to place as well. Natural law theory developed over time, and we can consider or discuss this concept of jurisprudence under four seminal or four primary limbs. Firstly, the classical period, the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and the modern period. So let's look at each individual period of time separately. Firstly, the classical period was dominated by the ancient Greeks and the Romans. Socrates, for instance, had considered natural law theory or jurisprudence as having been a product of correct reasoning. You could see this being expanded on by Aristotle, who considered that it's a universal
Good seeing
and
you, Stacy.
immutable
It's okay.
standard
Glad to have you tonight.
discoverable
Thanks for
through
joining us.
reason, and man-made law should conform to these higher standards. You'll notice that it's at this point that you will see a tangent and a shift taking place as you move forward. Plato considered something similar and noted that the ultimate justice is discoverable through reason. The Middle Ages saw a marked difference or a decline in the study of the Greeks and Romans, and more emphasis being placed on religion and faith. Two jurists or two academics that could be considered as outlining the Middle
Aquinas.
Ages is St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas. In De Civitas Dei, St. Augustine noted, "What are states without justice but robber hands enlarged?" In essence, we see in the Middle Ages this concept of reasoning, of morality, of just and fairness, which was considered through the period of the Greeks and Romans by Aristotle, by Plato, and Socrates, shifting more towards a hierarchy which was religious in nature. So in St. Augustine's De Civitas Dei, you'd note that he considers religion as being paramount to that of reason. This doesn't mean that reason took a back seat. On the contrary, it creates a situation where religion is said to be the reason or the higher power. St. Thomas Aquinas, on the other hand, considered that unjust laws deserve no obedience. He noted that man can find natural law by applying reason and studying scriptures of revelations of God. Now, what must be considered at this point of jurisprudential thinking is that time had moved on to a point where religion played a major part of not just laws, but also society at large. In essence, people believed in religious aspects or scriptures as being gospel as well as the higher form that you must aspire to. The contribution in that sense is that what Thomas Aquinas managed to do was, rather than looking at it holistically or solely in the context of religion, he tried to harmonize the teachings of the Greek philosophers before him with the beliefs of the Catholic Church. It was, in essence, a balance, so to speak. This balancing of interests later on in sociological school of jurisprudence, we see in so many other aspects in the future as well. According to St. Thomas Aquinas, law can be considered in four seminal aspects. Firstly, eternal law or lex eterna. This is an aspect of law which is only known
That's
to
right,
God.
Alan.
Secondly, you have divine law or lex divina. This is a part of eternal law or law that is known only to God, but revealed to men by God through Holy Scriptures. What St. Thomas Aquinas believed was that the highest form of law was that of lex eterna, and what could be understood and manifested by man was revealed to man by God through Scriptures.
That's right.
Thirdly, you have actual natural law or lex natura. This is part of divine law, which is the law revealed to man by God and understood by men through reason. And finally, you have human law or lex humana. This is primarily and intrinsically law derived directly or solely by man. Now, St. Thomas Aquinas considered that man-made law on its own is quite unjust. Why? On the one hand, it furthered the interests of the lawgiver only, because he believed that it was biased to the person who created it. Moreover, he felt that exceeding of power by the
Thanks,
lawgiver
Wanda.
could
Good
occur,
seeing you.
as well as burdensome on the people that it governed. Now, it must be noted that modern constitutionalism has been heavily influenced by St. Thomas Aquinas even to this day.
That's right.
The Renaissance period saw the revival of the Greek and Roman thinking. So instead of relying on the scriptures during Middle Ages, they started looking at the human element itself, the purpose in itself. The theory of social contract is seen as being given birth at this point.
That's right.
By academics or jurists such as Rousseau, Hobbes, and Locke. The whole notion of natural law, which we were looking at up until this point, slowly shifted towards the aspect of natural rights. This can be seen as a forerunner towards fundamental rights or human rights. This, in essence, brings us to the modern period, or that which we see in the 19th century. Fortunately or unfortunately, the whole premise and the concepts of natural law, seen originally from the Greeks and Romans to the Middle Ages by St. Augustine and St. Aquinas, to that of the Renaissance period where the Greek and Roman thinking started to proliferate and come back or revive itself by way of Rousseau, Hobbes, and Locke, saw a decline, primarily due to A, scientific knowledge, which was now more prevalent, as well as different people using natural law for different ends.
Screen, guys,
and this, in essence, being considered by Alf Ross, for instance, as being like a harlot, natural law being at the disposal of many for their own personal gain. The emergence of positivists was another reason, and positivists, in turn, an aspect which we will look at later on in another lesson, believed that the role of the jurist was also to analyze the law and not exactly how it ought to be. However, following World War II, for instance, natural law again gathered some acceptance because of the atrocities that happened during that time by Nazi rule. You could see a real-world shift in thinking with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, for instance. There have been a number of contributions to jurisprudential thought by way of natural law. First and foremost, it has played an important role in establishing moral concepts such as pacta sunt servanda, or, for instance, agreements are to be honored. It has inspired the formation of democratic constitutions in the modern world, such as that of the US and France, for instance, and aspects of fundamental or...
The US is not a democratic constitution. Our founding fathers despised democracy. Despised it. All of them, almost universally, despised democracy. The U.S. was always intended to be a constitutional republic, so he's wrong.
Human rights have been encapsulated, especially following the Nazi regime as well as the atrocities of World War II. Principles of equity have been developed through that of natural law, things which are...
And equity in the hermeneutic sense. So this is something that you need to understand. The word equity has been hijacked by the modern Marxists, or you could call them Democrats in America, to mean everyone's equal. And that's not what equity ever meant. It was a Justinian principle that people would be treated fairly. So if you went before a court, you were entitled to equal justice under the law. It doesn't mean that if I earn and work 18 hours a day like I'm doing right now and make more money than you, that some piece of shit like Camel Toe Harris can redistribute my money to you in exchange for a vote. That's not what equity means, just so you guys know.
Strict, or laws which are strict in the essence of common law, have been shifted quite primarily in equity by virtue of natural law precepts. For instance, the Lord Chancellor in the UK at one point of time intervened to reduce these harshness. Development of natural justice, or, for instance, concepts such as audi alteram partem and nemo judex in causa. These aspects have primarily come into the forefront of jurisprudential thought and legal systems in essence because of natural law thinking and the jurists that propounded it. That was a quick outline of natural law, or the school of natural law thinking. In the next lesson, we will begin our discussion.
That was pretty good, to be honest. I was impressed with that. Now, guys, so there's been a real push right now by the globalists and the far left Democrats to want to decide what truth is. And we've seen many examples of people like Hillary Clinton lying, the CIA and the federal government lying. The Hunter Biden laptop is one where we had 20 or 30 CIA officials, high officials, come out and say that it was Russian disinformation to try to help Biden swing the election. And then they lied about the laptop. We knew that it was really his laptop, but they said it was Russian disinformation. Those are the same people who are trying to prevent X from having to, they want to basically jail Elon Musk. So these people want to be able to restrict your speech. And this woman here is an example of the globalists who are trying to do that. And this is the exact opposite of natural law. Listen to what this woman has to say.
We will share with you the most up-to-date information daily. You can trust us as a source of that information. You can also trust the Director General of Health and the Ministry of Health. For that information, do feel free to visit at any time to clarify any rumour you may hear, covid19.govt.nz. Otherwise, dismiss anything else. We will continue to be your single source of truth. We will provide information frequently. We will share everything we can, everything else you see, a grain of salt. And so I really ask people to focus.
The most egregious example of that appears to be this text which originated in Malaysia and has become a viral hoax in Australia and in New Zealand. How irresponsible is it the people that are sharing that news of a lockdown imminent in New Zealand?
Yeah, and look, that's the kind of thing that adds to the anxiety that people feel. So I continue to share the message. New Zealanders must prepare, but do not panic, prepare. And when you see those messages, remember that unless you hear it from us, it is not the truth. And I really ask people, just visit covid19.govt.nz. It has all of the up-to-date information, and we will continue to provide everything you need to know.
Unless you hear it from the people who are donate tons of money to my political campaign, who, by the way, are immune from being sued for their own negligence, it's not true. So these are the same people who want to ban speech. They're the same people who'd like to shut me up, right? They get to decide what truth and falsity is. That is exactly the opposite of what our founding fathers intended for this country. It's an abomination of natural law and free rights, natural will. And this is what they're trying to do in the California public schools, brainwash these kids into believing that only the government is your sole source and single source of information. And I'll tell you something, guys, if this next election goes the wrong way, look for your right of free speech to be completely eliminated. Whoa, looks like we got a super chat here. Gabe Perez. Thanks, Gabe Perez. Hey, that's my homie. Guys, everybody give a bunch of ones to Gabe Perez. This is one of my good friends. This is somebody that I've known for years, and he's a really good guy, and I'm going to help him build his YouTube channel. Hopefully he'll want to get on board with me. And then we're going to move on now to an example of what happens when you have politicians like that lady you just saw speak. This is the end result of what happens when you have someone like that politician who would presume to think that she and only the government and the people around her and based upon who donates to her political campaigns get to decide what truth and falsity is. And everything else is disinformation. We saw Hillary Clinton come out today and say that people who have free thought and free will should be locked up and put in re-education camps if they support Donald Trump, for example. So, and this is an example of what happens when you have despots like Hillary and that New Zealand witch-looking figure we just saw.
Can I help you?
Yeah, what's going on?
Do you live here?
Oh,
Then be gone. Bye.
I'm friends with her.
Bye.
No.
Give me your ID. You want to play this game? Do you want to play this? Then get the off the porch. Good. You a student here?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
No, it doesn't matter. What the talking about her? Right now.
Turn around.
No.
Turn around.
Shut your mouth.
Jesus Christ.
Hi.
Need your IDs.
IDs.
Student
Can I
IDs.
ask for why?
You're being referred right now.
Can I just ask
Give me your student ID.
I think I have the right to ask why.
Okay, so now you're going to get another referral for non-compliance.
I'm asking why.
Do you know why we're talking to you?
I do not. I'm confused why.
No, you're not confused.
12 and all that, that's being confused. I think that's you playing
Telling
dumb
us
now.
we got too many cop cars. Telling us that we're in the way of your pizza.
We ain't up there talking. It's what you've been doing.
I have my paper one. It's just that my.
What was the one I seen in the front right there? Is that
Right
your
there.
fake one or something?
Here's this one.
No,
your
what's the one
other
up front?
ID.
You're under arrest for underage consumption.
ID that we saw that's on
Come on.
camera.
Underage consumption. What a joke. All right. So here's another one that's kind of interesting. You just, look, when the government is given the authority to decide what's right and wrong without the authority of its voters and its constituency, this is
into the matter to perhaps sue the cop.
Yeah, because the cop exceeded all known forms of human decency by doing that. He pulled a freaking, looks like a G20 Glock 21 on him. Forgive me, I say G21 because I'm used to shooting with all my homies. We all know this stuff. That was insane, right, guys? Give me a bunch of ones if that cop should be thrown in prison for drawing down on a guy. I don't care how fast that dude was going. There was no justification for that officer to pull his gun. And that is a violation of the natural law principles that I preach on this show. And it was also impeding his right of travel. I don't know enough about it to make any more judgment calls other than to tell you that I saw zero justification for using the firearm. And under the rules of evidence, you could see by him not making a use of force report that he knew that he was in the wrong. And therefore, that's called guilty mind. So just so you can learn a little bit about evidentiary ruling and law. Now, I got another cool one for you guys to watch. Check this out. This is going to blow your mind.
Yeah, I will in just a minute.
Mark it up.
Have you ever seen this before?
No. No, what is that?
Hang up with Deputy Jackson here.
Planting evidence. This is what happens when you have government out of control, trying to raise revenue instead of supporting natural law and natural rights.
I come through the light, I get pulled over. All right, the deputy asked if he could search my truck. I told him yes, he may search.
Why would you ever? Okay. Never, ever, ever consent to one of these guys searching your car. You don't know who these people are. This guy, look, there are psychopaths in some of these police departments. Many of them have been redistributed after they've already caused havoc in other towns, and they'll send them out to these little shithole cities like this. And look, they'll plant evidence, they'll plant drugs because they want to get a bonus. They'll civil asset forfeiture, one of the biggest rackets in the country. They'll steal your money, and they'll bring out a drug dog. All money has 99% of money has drug residue on it. Every dog will alert on money, and they're trained to alert on the smell of money also. That's something people don't seem to understand. Always record. Always record. By the way, give me a bunch of OTCVs in the sidebar. OTCVs. Overturn civil forfeiture. Overturn civil forfeiture. Let's keep going.
He goes to the passenger side. He sees, I don't know, God knows what. He goes around to the other side. He's going on open. And he comes back with a spoon, which is what I use to eat my yogurt with. And in the spoon, there is laying a little bitty, like, I guess, a little tiny bag. He says it tests positive for methamphetamine. So I guess I'm going to go to jail. And it damn sure ain't mine. And nobody's been in my truck but me.
And she's basically admitting right there on camera that no one's ever been in the car but her. So that gives him additional evidence that there's no chain of custody issue on whether or not those drugs are hers if the officer is to be believed. And we know that this guy planted the drugs on her.
Return presumptive positive for methamphetamine, okay? I'm just letting you know, okay?
Scumbag. Why would anybody want to join the police department knowing there's people on that force that you would have to back up if they're liars?
Honesty's gonna go a long way with me, okay, man?
Yeah.
All right, I've got to test this. The center console.
No way, man.
Liar. You think politicians wouldn't rig elections? Come on, guys. Voting machines? Really? Come on.
All right, look, man. It did field test presumptive positive for methamphetamine. Okay? Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If I read you your rights, will you talk to me?
I talked to you, man.
Okay.
Man, I'm just saying, man. I ain't just, dude. I'm just fucking.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Okay. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court.
Insane. Can you believe that? This guy lost his freaking daughter.
Right.
I'll put my son's life on it.
I got you, man.
The seriousness.
I got you. Got a little bit of meth on him. Paraphernalia, the felony DWLSR. You put a pipe in between the front driver's seat and center console. I tried to get it out. I broke it, but I still got it. It's on my body camera and stuff, man. I treat everybody with the same amount of respect they treat me. All right, you've been nothing but respectful. Okay, I couldn't ask you to be any more respectful, man. I'm just trying to figure out how that stuff got in your car.
Yeah, because you
put
put
it
it there.
today for possession of methamphetamine. Okay, it was in your vehicle right there at the center
Yeah,
console.
the cop put it there.
All right. I don't have much discretion with a felony charge, buddy. I don't have much discretion with that, man.
Road pirate.
Oh man, dude, I'm serious, dude. Anything. What you want me to do, man?
Thank God. Now, just think about all the ones that they haven't caught. Imagine an entire police department from the sheriff or the chief all the way down with cops like that. And trust me, guys, it ain't the exception. I'm not saying it's the rule, but it ain't the exception. Don't ever, ever allow an officer to search your car, ever. Never allow a police officer to search your vehicle. Never talk to them. Never, ever give them statements or testimony. Invoke your right to remain silent. You cannot trust any of these people. Our political system has encouraged dishonesty. You can see it in our politicians by them wanting to silence us and tell us that only they are the true source of information is enough for me to know right then and there that these people are scum. We need to roll things back, form parallel systems, and get away from this. You should not be shopping at places like Target where they promote Satanism and sexualization of children. You should not be buying products from companies that are run by BlackRock who want to force behaviors on you. I just found out today that the public school kids in my school jurisdiction where I live, now they're having some like gender queer study award or whatever. I mean, that's ridiculous. That stuff should not be in schools. Schools should be learning reading, writing, and arithmetic. You've got these woke, ideologic, Marxist school teachers with their pink and blue hair brainwashing our children and destroying their minds, trying to get them injected full of these hormones that can make you sterile. And when you look deeper into it, you can see that it's part of a deeper Luciferian system where they're trying to sterilize your kids. It's unbelievable what these people are up to. So stay as far away from them as possible. Now, because I'm a personal injury attorney, I wanted to share this one with you as one of my last video shares because I think it's really good. And I'll tell you why once we watch it.
But why do you think I'm gonna pay for this? I'm not paying for this. Where is it? What happened? So how you get the tape on it?
I tried. Yeah, the man at the gas station helped.
Baby, this is gonna cost me like $2,000. I'm gonna have to get this whole thing renewed. Then the whole bumper gotta get replaced. Then the light. Then I might have to get a new trunk. What you mean? You think I'm paying for this?
Well, yes, it's your car. Why wouldn't you?
I wasn't driving when you got into an accident.
No, I didn't get into an accident. They hit me.
Okay, I understand that it wasn't your fault, but I'm not paying for this. You're paying for it. So run the money.
No, I'm not paying for it.
Listen, I don't want to be this aggressive with you right now because you are really no. You need to realize what you just did with my car. I'm not paying to get my car fixed. You will never drive my car ever again. I hope you never.
It's fucking beat up anyway.
You don't have a car.
Okay.
So you saying my car being
I
beat up?
can Uber. Do you think you're threatening me? Fuck, I don't care about no Nissan Altima.
You know how much Ubers cost?
More than you have clearly to fix your own car.
You obviously
You're
don't have
trying to
nothing.
use
You know
me
what?
to get money out of
Using
me,
you?
like a broke ass nigga.
I'm using you?
Yes, like you're trying to fucking manipulate me into thinking that I have to pay for it. No, that's not what real men do.
You know what? I'm gonna go get my car fixed. We don't even gotta speak no more. We can end this right here because I see where your head at. I see where your head at.
Definitely raised by your mom.
All right, so what I'm going to do really quick is just go over this video with you. So this girl, she's driving her boyfriend's car, and if it was California, it's a permissive use state, so she's got a right to drive his car. And since she was rear-ended, unless she backed into the guy, she's not at fault. Oh man, we got another super chat. Looks like hell yeah, Roger Lane, guys. Give me a bunch of ones. By the way, guys, everybody on my channel, double tap right now my screen to give me some likes. Make sure to join Roger Lane's, subscribe to his channel. And also everybody here, I want you guys to subscribe to each other and contact each other. I'm expecting all my members to become friends, and to form parallel systems. I want to know what everybody here has for a career, what you guys do for work, because I want to support your businesses. And I want to support people in your family. So if you guys need legal help, even if I've got to do it pro bono, even if you're out of state, I'll find someone to help you. And I expect all of you guys to help each other. That's how we get off of this Leviathanic, Luciferian system that BlackRock and the far left Marxists are trying to force on our children in the public schools, in the police departments, this nasty stuff that they're trying to import that comes straight from hell, straight from Lucifer, straight from Satan. You guys should embrace holy things like God. If you're Christians, Jesus, but whatever it might be. But you should not be participating in these Leviathanic, Luciferian, satanic systems. You're good people. You guys should be supporting each other. You guys should be supporting each other's businesses. That's what Martin Luther King did. Martin Luther King boycotted these evil people who wouldn't serve them just because they were black. These scumbags. And ultimately, they were forced to stop all their discrimination or they would go broke. So I expect you guys to form parallel systems and support one another. Homeschool your children. Homestead. Start a farm. Guys, do your research about what they're selling in the grocery stores, all these chemicals and pesticides, these food dyes that are illegal in Europe, that they're giving you, that they're giving your children, that are causing birth defects, brain injuries, say many scientists, because I'm not a scientist and I will get fact checked by the powers that be right now and have my channel demonetized if I said things like that without qualifying it as an opinion. So that's how bad it's gotten. So I want you guys to start taking care of one another. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Don't participate. Don't buy things from people who support the destruction of your country. Buy from people who pledge allegiance to the flag, the real flag, not the rainbow flag, the American flag. Start becoming Americans again. Now, the next video that I'm going to show you is, well, let's just play it. And let's see. Yeah, hold on a minute. We may not have time. It's getting kind of, you know what? Yeah, we're going to watch it. It's a 10-minute video. You're going to see this is important, guys. So we've been told for years that the public schools are not trying to sexualize children, that parents are being conspiracy theorists. We've seen the Biden administration send the FBI to try and harass and intimidate parents for complaining about their children being sexualized by these Marxist, Stalinist, maniac public school teachers. And they've been told, we're being gaslit by the public education system in these schools that, oh no, you guys are making this up. This is misinformation, disinformation. The kids aren't being sexualized. They're not teaching critical race theory. They're not teaching the kids that white people are evil and that whites are the enemy. They're not teaching any of this stuff. You guys are making that up. Then ABC, PMS, NBC, Communist News Network come on and say, oh yeah, that's true. None of that's happening. You're just a white supremacist, crazy person. You don't know what you're talking about. Then the ladies on The View will come on and agree with them, and they'll try to gaslight you and make you look like you're the enemy. Let's watch this and see what I've been telling you guys for the last 3 or 4 years.
There's more than one way to skin a cat.
We trick them, you know.
Critical race theory. Critical race theory. Critical race theory.
And some Ohio lawmakers want to ban what is known as critical race theory from being taught in K through 12 schools.
Ohio parents are worried about what their children are being taught, and they are right to be worried. An in-depth accuracy and media investigation revealed public school administrators who are determined to advance the principles of critical race theory even if it becomes illegal. And some of the worst things we captured were right in the capital city, Columbus.
All I can think of when I think of that House bill is my Southern parents always raising us on these little funky phrases that I never understood.
Arrogance.
And one of them was, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So whether you can pass a bill that you can't teach CRT in a classroom, but if you didn't cover programming, or you didn't cover extracurricular activities or something like that, that message might still get out.
Trying to sexualize your kids, guys.
Right.
They're trying to brainwash them into hating white people.
Yeah.
There would be a way. We kept getting these emails, do you have critical race theory in your curriculum, which was what the talking point was from a certain news channel.
Critical race theory teaches hatred of white people, period.
So we got to the point where first we're going to ask you, what do you mean by critical race theory?
Do you think we're teaching higher education, grad school stuff to your second grader?
And then the second thing is, no, we don't have that in our curriculum. You didn't ask about conversations in the hallway. You didn't ask about, which we don't have those anyway. But the point is, we're going to answer your question. Nowhere in our curriculum does critical race theory exist. And it went away.
In other words, they're lying.
Well, I kind of want to know that y'all are having some conversation around
Like the tenets of it, like diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice.
Those conversations are happening.
Yeah, code word for racism against white people.
When people ask us a question, we answer their question. But yes, we absolutely have those conversations going on. Is there a parent saying that privilege is a controversial topic? Probably, but don't get me wrong, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that will probably get discussed in 17 classrooms before somebody actually brings it in here, and then we'll deal with it.
These radicals are being paid by your tax dollars to deceive you. These public school administrators are devoted to promoting social justice in classrooms. They are devoted to teaching your children that America is systemically racist, that capitalism is inherently racist. And when parents speak out against these things, they're often accused of being dramatic or
They hate America.
engaging in a slippery slope fallacy. But this equity officer made it incredibly clear
Equity
that the
officer,
fears
what a
of these
joke.
parents are completely justified.
They're not going to be supportive if I lay out everything we're going to do. But if I talk to them about doing this one thing in the name of supporting students,
right,
they probably
Roger.
won't have an issue with this one thing. And by the time we get that thing established, if I start talking to them about this one other thing, they don't realize that was two things. They just realize that we're moving from where we are to where we're going. But we're not going here because that would be liberal. That'd be a little crazy.
right.
But we can go.
And then in 5 years.
Yeah,
Because
5 years
it's
you look back and
completely-
like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, the
Another
kids will be
Columbus
brainwashed.
administrative staffer was a little more direct in explaining how they handle concerned parents.
We have some parents that, they,
Sounds like camel
they
toe.
don't fully understand. So, it's when we trick them,
What do you mean?
But similar situation. So if we have a certain content that we want,
If camel toe gets into power, this kind of crap is, these school teachers are going to force this anti-white racism on every single little kindergartner. Their kids are being taught to hate each other. This is the exact opposite of what Martin Luther King taught. Starting with Obama, there has been this trend to try to turn the country against white people. And it's really disgusting because it's un-American. We're supposed to be an inclusive society. Using words like diversity, equity, and inclusion, what those words mean to them is hatred of white people. To me, diversity, equity, and inclusion means we just treat everybody equally. We don't tell our fellow classmates that these people sitting over here are oppressors and these people sitting over here are the oppressed. We don't do that. That's un-American. Let's keep going.
to share
Yeah.
with students, and they see one word in the language, it's like, oh no, we can't do that.
well, let's look at it from a different, viewpoint, and then it's
Change
they're
the words,
okay,
At
the end of the day, we can close the door and teach what's right. And I would presume and hope, I don't know,
I got you,
Connecticut
Kinetic.
would be similar here if stupid laws got passed. I don't know.
It's hard to predict. Yeah, it's hard to predict that, but we would find parameters for which we could. Absolutely.
That's right. Ohio hasn't banned the principles of critical race theory from being taught in public schools. But as plenty of administrators told us, they would happily circumvent any such law.
Absolutely.
One common tactic is to use social and emotional learning. SEL is often a Trojan horse for critical race theory.
Yep.
And as one administrator told us, they're even using COVID bailout money to pay for it.
That's right.
They're taking funds that were dedicated to reopening schools safely during a pandemic and instead spending it on indoctrination.
Are you guys able to do social and emotional learning here, or do the parents?
We do focus a lot of, so with the federal funds that got awarded for, we call them ESSER funds, but federal funds that got awarded for the pandemic, we put a social worker and a guidance counselor in every single building.
Cool.
And we incorporated a lot of materials that were focused on the social emotional well-being, self-regulating,
Yes.
levels and things like that.
And I feel like that's a good way to get diversity, equity, inclusion into classes it might not normally be in.
Yes.
Another Trojan horse for critical race theory principles is a classroom news service called Newsella. We've found Newsella in countless.
Now, guys, just so you know this, Hillary Clinton says anybody who says that critical race theory is being taught in public schools is engaged in misinformation and disinformation, and on that basis, they should be punished, right? We just heard Camel Toe Harris say that Elon Musk lost his privileges because he allows people like this to have a voice. Think about that. Imagine what's going to happen once all those illegal aliens make the country into a single party state using the census. Once they get the right to vote in a couple of years, this country's doomed. Keep on watching.
Districts throughout the country. And as we've mentioned previously, they're partners with the far-left Southern Poverty Law Center, revisionist historian Howard Zinn, and the debunked New York Times 1619 Project.
So we use Newsella in a couple of different capacities. So we use it for not only some of our core content, so our social studies uses it, but
Nice.
we use it as a supplement
That's
for
true.
language arts also.
In Ohio, just like we saw with our investigations in Iowa, Idaho, and Tennessee, parents are playing an endless game of whack-a-mole with public education. If you ban critical race theory principles, they call it something else. If you ban the 1619 Project, they bring in the same content under the guise of Newsella. Parents want to believe in public education. They want to trust their
Don't do
child's educators. But I'm sorry to
Not
say,
educators.
public education has broken that trust.
That's
The
right.
only solution to this is Arizona-style school choice, where public
Homeschooling.
education dollars follow the child. In the words of Corey DeAngelis, we should fund students, not systems.
Amen.
Please take action. Click on the link below this video to send a message demanding school choice right now.
Right on.
Then share this video with any parents that
Everybody.
you might know. And if you'd like to make sure this video reaches the most parents possible, click on the link below to make a tax-deductible contribution. Our work is only made possible through your support. I'm Adam Gillette with Accuracy in Media, and stay tuned because this is just the first part of our Ohio.
All right, so there's that one, and then we got one more for you, and then I got to go, guys, because I still have to finish a brief tonight. So this is going to be a good one, and then we'll call it a night.
Hands out the window! Open the door with your hands!
Can I take off my belt?
Take off your seatbelt. Slowly.
Right on,
Open
Stacy.
the door.
We're American.
hands
We're not
up.
white or black or brown. We're
Stay
Americans.
away. Face it away. Put the phone down.
I have the right to hold the phone.
Down.
Why can't I hold the phone?
Put the phone down.
Why can't I hold the phone?
Put
This
the
is
phone
for
down.
my safety, sir.
Put the phone down.
This is for my safety.
Put the phone down.
This is for my safety.
Put the phone down.
This is for my safety.
Put the phone down. Put the
That wasn't mad at you.
down.
Sir, I cannot do it.
Put the phone down. Drop the phone. Drop the phone.
Please, don't do this. I can't drop the phone. I can't. This is for my safety. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I can't do it. I'm not going to hurt you.
Drop the phone.
Tase the guy.
Follow Real Crazy
What a
Fights for
joke.
more videos like this.
So anyway, so that was the last one. So guys, it's been a really good show tonight. You guys got to see, and look, the next video, the next show that I do is going to be dedicated to police abuse and abuse of force. But as you guys know, I'm a legal historian, and my true love is legal history and teaching people about natural law, English common law, American common law. And tonight I wanted to show you the progression of how it works. You know, you get into natural law and natural law theory, and now you see this attempt by the government to say what truth and falsity is. And you have these politicians, especially these brainwashed kids that go to these schools where they teach critical race theory, right? Those teachers are brainwashing kids to believe in appeals to authority, right? That only the government or some pink-haired bozo can decide what truth and reality is. And as a result, you have this whole generation of zombies running around, chopping off their body parts, injecting themselves with stuff that sterilizes them. And you have these weirdos, these public school teachers primarily, that are responsible for that happening. They're partisan, radical, leftist communists who have taken over our university and education system. And they really do hate our country, in my opinion. And the only chance that we have to save this country, honestly, is to homeschool our children, to homestead, and to form parallel systems. So if you agree with me, give me a bunch of ones. Start making friends with the people in my chat and start finding ways to form a parallel system. For example, if somebody's got an organic farm, man, I'll pay a lot more money for organic food than that stuff that Bill Gates is putting out, right? Wouldn't you? And so we need to support each other that way. The same way Martin Luther King taught his people, we're now the new minority. People who believe in freedom and liberty are the new minority in this country, because there's two types of people in the world generally: people who want to be controlled and people who don't. And the people that come to my show are people who don't want to be controlled. And I love you guys, and I'm glad that you're here. It's been a really great night. I've been able to share a lot of good things with you. Hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully you guys will buy a copy of my book. Hold on a second. Give me 1 second here. I got to find it. Hopefully you guys will buy a copy of my book. This is the soft cover book will probably run around $40, which I don't have available right now. But if you want to support my channel, please buy a copy of this. Go to my YouTube homepage and click on the description of my homepage. It's $19.99. It's My Journey to Becoming a Practicing Lawyer with No Law Degree or Undergrad, the first edition. It'll be a digital version of this book. There's a PayPal link. You can click on it. Buy a couple copies. Buy 10. Buy copies for your friends and your family members, and have people read it. I talk about my journey from being a construction worker, from being a Marine, from being a construction worker, a small business owner, to working at a Home Depot, sleeping on park benches, doing whatever I had to do to learn how to become a lawyer, because it was my passion, right? I was called to do it, and to advocate for the less fortunate. That was my goal, to help the less fortunate. And I've done so many cases pro bono. And just like the Bible says, you'll be rewarded 7 times 70. And I become very successful. I had a great life, got to have the cool sports cars, the Maseratis, the beach house, and all that stuff. But what really made me happy was being able to have a wife and kids, and being able to procreate and pass on my knowledge to them and be a provider. And I'm hoping that you young men who watch this show will take inspiration from me and reproduce and procreate and find a good woman that you can look after and care for, and make America what it was supposed to be, not this abomination that has been created over the last 3 or 4 years of this current administration, where they're trying to brainwash little children to emasculate themselves. Absolutely disgusting. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with that. Let's take back our country from the Leviathan, bring back natural law principles where we teach people to love their neighbor as they love themselves. And we don't teach hatred in our schools where you tell one part of the classroom that the guy sitting next to them is an oppressor. That is absolutely disgusting, and it's un-American, and it needs to stop. And so I don't know what the answer is, but I do know forming parallel systems will give us all a chance to escape the great Leviathan, at least for a time, and reform and regroup. Remember, these other people, the 80% who are incapable of critical thinking, hey, only 3% of the population that is estimated participated in our revolution. Everybody else sat on the fence. You know, the Marines are the smallest branch, but we're the toughest fighters, and we're badasses. And I want all you guys to become elite Marines of Team MPE in the civilian world. So give me a bunch of ones for Team MPE, because you guys are all part of Team MPE. And thanks again for hooking me up tonight and buying all those memberships, Roger. Man, Roger bought like 20 or more memberships for my people so they become members of Team MPE. God bless you all, and God bless America. And I look forward to seeing you. I don't know if I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night because I'm super busy. I'm working on a couple of briefs. But with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do or die. God bless all of you guys. And I wish the best for everybody. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. By supporting this channel, you're supporting me emotionally, and you're helping me support my family that way. I really do appreciate it. God bless you.